in time to go see their children in schools, of course, as they're also getting ready to break off for first term holidays. So anytime now we could be having them back at home. But also looking at the East African region, things are getting hotter by the minute, especially whatever is happening in South Sudan. The conflict there has reportedly spread to the east and the west between the Sudan Military Army and also the RSF group, who definitely have power struggles there going on. And no wonder the Ugandan government has asked Ugandans that are already there in Khartoum in Sudan to stay indoors as they try to find a way of salvaging this conflict. But things are not looking good for them. However, economic-wise, I could say Kenya and Ethiopia could be celebrating, seeing as they could be joining the top 4 biggest economies, at least according to the report that came out by the International Monetary Fund, seeing most of their GDPs growing. And Kenya obviously will be superseding Angola that previously took on the 4th position. Well, I would love to hear that Uganda could be among the top 4 economic giants come 2024, but we can only hope and pray. Well, Felix, good morning. Welcome back from the weekend.
Good morning. How are you, Philomena?
Good, good.
How was your weekend?
Great.
Okay. Church?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was good.
How was that?
It was good. It was great.
Anything particular you picked out?
There was quite a lot that happened, but it was good.
You know, Sunday's readings were basically about, actually this Sunday we're celebrating Jesus of Mercy, is that's how to call it in English? Divine Mercy in Uganda. So it was quite beautiful to hear the homilies that the priests were giving relating to how the mercy of God, and now what the priest was saying, the mercy of God is just like an ocean. You can't drink of it to dry it. Something quite for us to pick as we do usher ourselves out of this Easter period. Probably also the big question now that did come in amidst the weekend was that now that with all this iron sheet saga blowing up in people's faces, we also came to hear that one of the ministers was arrested on Friday, and also the minister who was in prison was given bail successfully. They managed to get bail on Friday. I think they tried to fulfill the requirements of court. But as she was getting out, someone was getting in. We don't know how far that went with Amos Ugorovi, but we just wish them the best as well in whatever they are struggling with.
But they should continue picking one by one. I hope this week we'll be able to pick like other 2 or 3.
In Uganda, they say Gurumaya Guza. You can't say that syphilis can attack the nose. Or gonorrhea. It can only attack the part that went out looking for it.
There you go, Mollen. Good morning.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Philomena, and I want to say good morning to our viewers. Well, the things that happen here in Uganda, some of them you just, you wonder actually what is happening, because now, to me personally, I'm wondering, you're now arresting someone else, and then the other person who actually is connected to the same case is being given bail. That is paving way to also other people that are connected to this Mabati saga to actually devise a way out, even before they get to prison. So I think it's not setting a good precedent at that, because you have a huge web that is connected to the iron sheets, whatever. And now you're getting in someone, getting them out. I think something is wrong there. And I believe it's not looking good to the Ugandans that are crying for justice, especially the people in Karamoja, that they deserve better than that. And I hope that now that we've gotten into a work week, that is Monday now, we should be getting a lot of answers, and we should be seeing more people that are connected actually also get into the court of justice to see that at least, you know, there is a little bit of balance right there. But also, Philomena, you did mention about the situation in Sudan. We did see member states also coming up. That was during the IGAD convention right there, talking about the situation, we're trying to make sure we have a peace across the region. And also President Museveni did issue out a statement saying that the people of Sudan belongs to the people, and there should be peace there, but also urged Ugandans who are in Sudan to stay indoors and keep calm as we look at how this whole turmoil can be resolved peacefully. But we've also had a lot of issues with Sudan. South Sudan later on, which also has had a lot of conflict and insurgencies over the years. You really feel for the people of Sudan because, you know, South, wherever, they're getting all these issues. But also you remember that there are a lot of Ugandans that are doing business there. And this could actually affect them with, you know, incoming products and out. That means there's going to be a huge, huge effect on that part. We do pray that the situation is resolved and business can return to Sudan as normal.
Well, indeed, our prayers go out there. At the end of the day, what we want to see, Mollen, is a peace prevailing on the entire East African bloc. Well, Robert, good morning. Welcome back from the weekend.
Good morning to you, the entire team, and of course our viewers. Thank you so much for waking up with us. Now, Mollen just triggered me to say something that is about the iron sheets. There's something over the years I've learned that you can't eat your cake and still have it. You know, we chose to be a civil democracy and have rule of law, and this is one thing that puzzles me. Much as I was seeing the people in danger in North trying to block roads, caused a lot of chaotic scenes there, protesting the arrest of their member of parliament, that is Amos Ugorobi. But you see, our laws are funny, because someone is presumed innocent until proved guilty by a competent court. So these people remain suspects. And one of the things they're entitled to is police bond and of course bail in court. So that is why you see that as soon as the minister, it was able to prove to court and produce sureties and all that is needed, she had to move out. But doesn't mean that the case has ended. However, the question has been, when these people automatically walk in, then later out, don't they influence investigations? Now, Lugorobi was arrested. He will be paraded in court, hopefully today, and he can still get bail and move out and then go back to whatever he's doing. The only thing there then would be that the case has not ended. They're still following up. So that is what we chose to do. And on several occasions, His Excellency has come out, but been challenged and said, you people, let's be very honest. A person who has committed murder, a person who has stolen government funds, the likes now of these Mabat people, why should they get bail, bond, this automatic? And use the word, this is a mockery to justice. But then we came in and said political opponents will be arrested and not given bond, not given bail. This is intended for political reasons. But now here we are. To the people of Karamoja, these guys are going to refund. And of course, many have already returned the iron sheets. We hope they'll go in safe hands. But is this deterrent? Knowing our court process, my land friend here, Felix, will tell you that this case cannot be dealt with within a month or two. To be very honest, that you can't secure a judgment within a month or two. It can even, we may see this people finish their term, those that are MPs, and again stand, and this case is still in court. So that is the biggest challenge we have. But still over the weekend, we had a nasty incident in Kansas where people were watching the Manchester, and I think it was West Ham match, a building collapsed, and police has not yet given us the actual number of those injured or dead, but we are still waiting for that report. And also very interesting, National Unity Platform comes up and amends its constitution and puts term limits to not only those in leadership, in the party leadership, but also in political offices. Now, if you're a member of parliament and you succumb to National Unity Platform, a maximum is 2 terms. If you've been a member of parliament, you serve 2 terms, you no longer go back to that position. Maybe you go to a lower position, you're a councillor, a division councillor. And if you're a councillor there, you still serve 10 years in that position, you either give up or go to a lower position or a higher position. So this is something political analysts are criticizing and saying, this may see some people leave Nude. After serving 10 years, We've had people here in Parliament, the likes of Honorable Betty Namboze, Abdul Katun, too many, who have been in that Parliament 15, 20 years, you know. So you tell them 10 years and someone still believes people support him, then they'll just leave your party. That's what they're saying. And of course, one wonders how constitutional is it when you don't have constitutional terms in our constitution.
Well, indeed, a whole roundup of what's happening here over the weekend. You'd actually think that when you're off for the weekend, everybody's off for the weekend. But there is a lot that happens between Friday and now. Well, we'll take you through some of our local stories, our international stories. Aside from what we talked about, what else happened? We'll be looking into that right now. Robert.
We begin with the Kabaka birthday run. Now, yesterday morning, thousands of people flocked to Lubidi for the 10th Kabaka birthday run. It was flagged off by His Majesty, the Kabaka of Uganda, Ronald Muwenda Mutebi II, at Lubidi in Mengo. Started in 2003, the annual Kabaka birthday run has over the years rallied Ugandans to celebrate the Kabaka's life while participating in efforts to reduce disease burden. Previous editions have focused on ending sickle cells, fistula, as well as sickle cells, encouraging people to join the effort towards ending the spread of HIV/AIDS. Just like the past 2 years, this year was. The run was held under the theme Ending HIV/AIDS by 2030.
And the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Mrs. Janet Museveni, has called on youth to proactively take charge of their lives and embrace sexual purity and shun foreign cultures that seek to impose on them homosexuality and other practices of sexual improprieties. Now addressing over 2,500 youth who gathered at a standard college in Tungamo district for the 3rd Regional Youth Summit held under the theme, My Life, My Responsibility, the First Lady urged the youth to refrain from defiling their bodies and rather choose the right paths of sexual purity.
And in the world of entertainment, Uganda's children dancing group Ghetto Kids has scooped a golden buzzer at the Britain Has Got Talent show. As an outstanding performance, he took one of the judges by astonishment. The judge then hit the golden buzzer midway the performance. The children were led to the show by Kavuma Dauda, a volunteer service provider, giving lease of life to about 30 children, including orphans.
Well, the Archbishop of Church of Uganda, Dr. Stephen Kazimba Mugaru, has commended Parliament of Uganda for passing the homosexuality bill and wants the President to sign the bill into law. The Church of Uganda heads is, however, not happy with the leaders who are not firm on condemning homosexuality.
International stories. A former member of India's parliament convicted of kidnapping has been shot dead on live TV along with his brother while in police custody in the northern city of Prayagraj, raising questions about rule of law in the state of Uttar Pradesh. The gunmen, who appear to have posed as journalists, fired multiple shots at Atiq Ahmed and former state legislator Ashraf Ahmed on Saturday as they were being taken in handcuffs to hospital by police for a medical checkup, according to authorities. 3 suspects quickly surrendered to the police after the shooting, with at least one of them chanting Jai Shri Ram or Hail Lord Ram, a slogan that has become a battle cry for Hindu nationalists in their campaign against Muslims. The 2 victims were from India's Muslim minority. Police did not say whether they were investigating a possible sectarian motive in the killings. Now, at least 4 people have been killed in a mass shooting at a 16th birthday party in the U.S. state of Alabama. 28 people were injured, some critically, after shots were fired at the Mahogany Masterpiece Dance Studio in the city of Deadville on Saturday. High school senior Phil Dowdell, a star athlete, has been named by local media as one of the victims, and President Joe Biden renewed his calls for tougher gun laws after the incident. Now, with a population of about 3,200 people, Deadville is a small rural city which is not used to scenes of violence on the scale. This shooting takes the U.S. to a grim milestone of more than 160 mass shootings in which 4 or more people are shot so far this year, according to the Gun Violence Archive.
Moving on, fierce clashes have been reported across Sudan as fighting between rival armed factions continues to spread. Violence between the army and a paramilitary group called the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, continued overnight into its third day. More than 50 people have been killed, and one estimate puts a number of injured at more than 1,000. Both sides are claiming they control key sites in the capital Khartoum, such as the presidential palace. Earlier on Sunday, they held a temporary ceasefire to allow the wounded to be evacuated, although it was not clear how strictly they stuck to it. The fighting is part of a vicious power struggle within the country's military leadership, which has escalated into violence between two rival factions. And in another story, a group of 7 rich nations on Sunday set big new collective targets for solar power and offshore wind capacity, agreeing to speed up renewable energy development and move towards a quicker phase-out of fossil fuels. They stopped short of endorsing a 2030 deadline for phasing out coal that Canada and other members had pushed for, and left the door open for continued investments in gas, saying that the sector could help address potential energy shortfalls. G7 ministers finished 2 days of meeting on climate, energy and environmental policy in the northern Japanese city of Sapporo on Sunday. Renewable fuel sources and energy security have taken on a new urgency following Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Well, we'll be getting into the big stories in our dailies at the New Vision and, of course, the Daily Monitor, the big stories. Looking at the Daily Monitor, Felix, what do we have?
Well, of course, the big headline, Mulago stuck with 40 dead machines. And among some of these machines that are dead, as the paper says, we're looking at the MRI machine, the plain X-ray machine, the monography system, and the patient monitors, and that among many other machines are dead at Mulago. Now, Kawaka calls for regular exercises and HIV fight to be intensified, but also still in other stories in the Daily Monitor, cancer patients fighting to get his voice back, and the ghetto kids wow the world in London.
Well, we'll be looking at the other papers, of course, as we go on for now, but also in your daily health check. Robert.
Well, it's all about products from Hallelujah Reflexology, that is Hallelujah Ginger Tea. What this does is it boosts your immune system, and Hallelujah Banana Juice Drink every day. Make it your routine to take any of the 3 flavors, including Hallelujah Tamarind. What these do is they keep you healthy, you rarely fall sick, and therefore you're making a lot of savings because you're not going to the doctors of the medics to spend your money there, and you're more productive. A healthy body is what makes money.
It's Good Morning Uganda. We'll go for a break. When we get back, we'll be having discussions and conversations that matter in the wee hours of the day. Child trafficking, the numbers are growing progressively. Why is this happening? Where is it going wrong, or what is going wrong, or what are we not doing as Ugandans, Ugandan authorities, Ugandan citizens? Have we played our part in ensuring that this trend actually stops? Well, we'll be looking into that discussion. Very, very excited to have you join us and be part of it when we get back shortly after this break. And thereafter, you'll have Mollen in the house, give you more on weather and climate. And much later on, we'll be getting into the traffic flow as well. What our roads look like on this Monday morning, busy or not, she will be here to give you a few tips here and there. We have agenda as well. We do have the sports highlights that we'll be following through, and of course will be followed by the GMU extra session, so don't miss out on all of that. We'll be back shortly after the break. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.
Good morning, Uganda. Thank you once again for joining us. It's a fresh new week, Monday, 17th April 2023. My name is Philomena Mastiko. Well, I do have Robert joining me this morning. I have Mollen join me as well, and Felix. Welcome back from the weekend. A lot of things indeed did happen. A number of visitations happened during this entire time. I saw very many parents struggling to make sure that they get in time to go see their children in schools, of course, as they're also getting ready to break off for FASTA holidays. So anytime now, we could be having them back at home. But also looking at the East African region, things are getting hotter by the minute, especially whatever is happening in South Sudan. The conflict there has reportedly spread to the east and the west between the Sudan military army and also the RSF group, who definitely have power struggles there going on. And no wonder the Ugandan government has asked Ugandans that are already there in Khartoum in Sudan to stay indoors as they try to find a way of salvaging this conflict, but things are not looking good for them. However, economic-wise, I could say Kenya and Ethiopia could be celebrating, seeing as they could be joining the top 4 biggest economies, at least according to the report that came out by the International Monetary Fund. Seeing Good morning, Uganda. Thank you once again for joining us. It's a fresh new week, Monday, 17th April 2023. My name is Philomena Mastiko. Well, I do have Robert joining me this morning. I have Mollen join me as well, and Felix. Welcome back from the weekend. A lot of things indeed did happen. A number of visitations happened during this entire time. I saw very many parents struggling to make sure that they get in time to go see their children in schools, of course, as they're also getting ready to break off for FASTA holidays. So anytime now, we could be having them back at home. But also looking at the East African region, things are getting hotter by the minute, especially whatever is happening in South Sudan. The conflict there has reportedly spread to the east and the west between the Sudan Military Army and also the RSF group, who definitely have power struggles there going on. And no wonder the Ugandan government has asked Ugandans that are already there in Khartoum in Sudan to stay indoors as they try to find a way of salvaging this conflict, but things are not looking good for them. However, economic-wise, I could say Kenya and Ethiopia could be celebrating, seeing as they could be joining the top 4 biggest economies, at least according to the report that came out by the International Monetary Fund. Seeing good morning, Uganda. Thank you once again for joining us. It's a fresh new week, Monday, 17th April 2023. My name is Philomena Mastiko. Well, I do have Robert joining me this morning. I have Mollen join me as well, and Felix. Welcome back from the weekend. A lot of things indeed did happen. A number of visitations happened during this entire time. I saw very many parents struggling to make sure that they get in time to go see their children in schools, of course, as they're also getting ready to break off
see
for
what the
FASTA
tourism sector
holidays.
has
So
in store
anytime.
for you. Visit www.poate.co.ug to secure your spot and get set to learn, network, and explore. The Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo is brought to you by the Uganda Tourism Board in partnership with Competitiveness and Enterprise Development Projects. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
Salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. From the Union of Muslim Women and Organizations in Uganda, Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Karim.
Twagaliza omwezi ogwa Ramadani omulungi, kye kiseera twekuba emitima tudde eri Allah.
Ebusoga bannange mwena mbagaliza Ramadan enungi.
Nimbendeza omwezi mulungi ogwa Ramadan.
Tumefika katika mwezi wa Ramadhani na watakiza kila la kheri katika mwezi huu Ramadhani al-Karim.
Akonga aisha ona shalami kinisiri amunu kierelo teso kama na rakeda suroti ngora 10 ukedi ya palisa akoro amunu kinori kiere aisibana jokan.
شهر رمضان مباركا أهلا بكم ومرحبا بكم يا جماعة الخير المسلمين. أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا بكم. شهر رمضان مبارك.
As the Union of Muslim Women, we have prepared so many programs programs with the sheikhs that really speak to our hearts and our minds. We request you to be on UBC during the day 3 to 4, but also during Daku time 5 to 6 a.m. in the morning. Ramadan Kareem, Ramadan Mubarak. Salamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. It is 17th of April 2023. It's a Monday, a fresh new week. A time for you to start afresh. If last week did not work out for you, you have this week to make sure that you catch up. It's never too late. My name is Philomena Mastiko with Felix Nkunda on today's discussion concerning child trafficking in Uganda. Well, you probably think that this is a vice that we have beaten, or it's one of those things that we don't have to worry about as a country. But I hate to break it to you that as we speak right now, the numbers are progressively growing. But again, in light of this topic and conversation, police arrested 2 suspects in connection with alleged trafficking of 17 kids. Now, this happened in Wakiso district, and on the 15th of April 2023, according to a statement that was released by police, it shows that a lady was arrested having 17 young children, and she was sighted at the Nkowe Mende border stage in Nkowe village, Kaliti parish, and this is in Wakiso district, and this was at around 5 a.m. Now, the Kampala Metropolitan Police Deputy Spokesperson ASP Luke Owoye Sijide said that, of course, lucky for these children, officers came in timely and very handy, and also were able to recover these children. But when you look at the age groups of these children, they were believed to be between 1 and 6 years, and they did not know any language apart from English. Well, clearly, when you look at this, it makes you question 17 children. This is not a small number. Even if it was 1 child, I think that child's life matters, and why they are being trafficked would be a reason to look into. Now, when you look at the cases of child trafficking in Uganda, they've continuously grown in the last couple of years. For instance, police recorded about 532 cases of child trafficking back in 2022, and this was up from 317 cases in 2021. So you're looking at 317 2021. Come to 2022, you're looking at 532 cases. Now, you wonder, by the end of 2023, where will have those numbers grown to? And we do believe that we need to really get or give attention to these, the child trafficking problem in Uganda. And we're asking you on our poll question this morning, what can be done to control and reduce the rate at which child trafficking is being carried out in the country? These growing trends, how do we get to cut them? How do we get to stop them? That is what we want to discuss this morning. So be part of it. Make use of all platforms you can have your hands on to get to us. WhatsApp 0709-602-592 is the number you can send your message to. But also on Twitter, you can find us in the hashtag UBCGMU. Felix, child trafficking.
Well, it's something that has been present in society for quite a time now, and sadly we have lost attention and focus towards it because of the absence of the right or the needed arguments to open up the forums for such a discussion. Now, there's something that we must agree as we get into the discussion, trying to end all of and love of this quite sad myth. The fact of the matter that children are vulnerable, and that's the beginning of this whole hullabaloo, if you may choose to call it. Kids being vulnerable, children being vulnerable, now leaves them at the exposure of being abused in all forms, and one of the forms does include, but not limited to, trafficking. One would want to also to know what is trafficking for that case. But we must appreciate trafficking as an act of, an illegal act of taking a child from one place of their domain existence, which would be their home area or homestead, to a place where they will be used for illegal activities, which may include work, child labor, to sacrificial purposes, or even for sale. We have seen all these. These are the reasons why people actually go for this trafficking. So that being said, we must also get back to the board and understand, why does this happen? But we have also ascertained previous to this is that there is vulnerability that comes with these little ones. They are vulnerable, and that's a matter of fact. I don't remember how many things I could ably appreciate mentally, physically, mentally, emotionally, at the age of, between the age of 3 to even the age of 16. Okay? Because biologically, they have not, their brains have not grown to the extent that they can appreciate matters of facts absolutely, and the latter individually. That's why kids are put in confines of other people who assumably are elders. That could be parents, could be parents, those could be caretakers, guardians, fosters, just to mention but a few, because of the vulnerability that comes with children. Now, the increase in trafficking that we see is directly resonating with the absence of attention that is given to that special group.
From the responsible adults?
Yes.
Yes.
And in those groups, you can be a guardian, you can be a parent, you can be a foster, you can be, name it, a carer. Because of that failure, we have failed to appreciate that these people are vulnerable. That's one of the causes. 2, we have accepted and fallen in the whims of accepting that we have a bigger burdens than actually raising these people or taking care of them. If you've noticed, there are many discussions into poverty being the biggest cause of, for those who buy, for those who sell, and for those who are taken off these kids. The other one would be the poor or uncoordinated and lack of facilitated methods how enforcement deals with these. I have personally interacted with police in terms of issues of trafficking many times, and many police stations, but you find that police officers have failed to, 1, understand the gymnastics of trafficking. 2, they lack facilitation to appreciate this. 3, they are not, their will to assist this is very low. If you've ever had a case where you go to police and you report, or someone reports a lost child or what, the best thing they can do is put up a poster at the police, missing person.
And a picture.
You find that there's a clashing attribute towards investigations that are linked to child cases vis-a-vis other. When you bring a theft matter, the police has all the machinery, the CID, the what. But what happens when we have such cases of trafficking? Do we have people in police who are experts to assist us in that direction? Okay, that is one of the things. But taking it wholesomely, you must appreciate that you may want to appreciate, where does the bigger burden fall? Is it a state burden, or is it a family or society burden for us to avoid such cases? Should we be putting parents more on trial, or the government or the state on trial when it comes to child trafficking? In fact, to appreciate that, if I'm not mistaken, the Ministry of Internal Affairs put up a whole commission, I think a whole commission or something, whole commissioner in charge of this whole thing of trafficking to assist stop it. Now that you're talking about cross-border, but internally we're having this go on. And I want to challenge anyone out there. One of the causes or the reasons why children are trafficked is because of labor. I don't know if you've noticed. When you go to Kampala homes, out of at least 10 homes, what is the age of their maids?
You will find most of them between 13, 12 to maybe 18. Some of them are actually pretty much younger than that.
So who's a child?
Because a child, ideally in Uganda, you're below 18 years.
Now, the big question, and this is where it all starts, we are normalizing some of the reasons or the causes of child trafficking. When you ask some of these kids what Joe Tiawano, waliwo omukyala yatuleeta ali mu kiyumba Mengo n'atufunira emirimu gino. You know, we are trying to professionalize or to normalize an act that is in the oblivion. It is a wrong act, as a matter of fact. Trafficking and child abuse or child labor is before our eyes. It's in our sitting rooms, our dinings, our kitchens, and our bedrooms and bathrooms. We sleep with it, we move with it, we eat from it. And that's where we should start. But how do you come out to condemn what you benefit from? But we must agree that this is a problem. This is a threat. So when you hear such stories, police rescues, you're only focusing, but where does it start? One of the causes of child trafficking, I told you, is labor. These kids, when they are taken, few of them are taken for just, they take them and give them work, you know, and all these kind of things. But what does the law say? You'll be surprised, even if you go to the lawmakers' houses, as you find these maids,
but the same maids that we are trying to help, or even the law enforcers are using them.
These questions? Yes. Do you ever ask these questions? When they bring you a maid who's 12, and some of them are lying, kana kajja bambi, nyine myaka 18, but you look at the 18, you're like...
The age is totally different.
Because that's what they have told them.
Yes.
That because they were, you know, and that is in almost, I've told you, in a spectrum of 10 homes who have maids, at least 6 or 7 have kids. Kids! Now this kid, you wake up in the morning, kufumbira people tea, mopping, clean, all these, the kid is being pumped. But because
you find that even in some of these households, Felix, the children who are in these households are older than the supposed house helps.
Absolutely. And that's child abuse. And this is one of, because the availability of the job market is what creates this trafficking to go on. Because you people are there to consume these house helps, or what you want to call maids. They will not stop being looked for. Because someone is earning from them. For you, when you pay them your 50,000 or 60, they have to remit something to this person monthly. So it doesn't just, and that's why I was asking, where does the burden lie? Is it society? Is it bigger in terms of society problem or a government problem? But there's a law. And you see, this is where I totally go contrary to some of the arguments as a growing country we delve into. One of the arguments we have fronted so much is, I've had politicians up in arms shouting about every other thing. Now we have this thing of iron sheets, but there's no one who ever talks about these important things.
Yes.
Honestly, whoever talks about the growing number of child labor in this country? Have you seen the kids who move around Kampala selling groundnuts and hard corns? let me tell you what happens. Those kids are the victims of this trafficking. They are gotten from their villages. Someone builds a home somewhere in Chisenyi and starts making them to sell. When you we interact with these kids on a daily. They have a code name normally for their boss. Chi, Mando, whatever.
Yes.
Like, what happens? Like, this is child trafficking is before our eyes. These people who are saying that they rescued, there's nothing. You people, but some of us personally, I love sugarcane so much. Every time I stop to buy sugarcane on a kid, it's a child selling
it's a
to
child
sugarcane.
selling the canes, yes.
Then those kids are working for someone. They're a result of the trafficking that you do not follow well. Okay, no mubuza, where did you come from? Whatever. Jaja, they normally say Jaja most of the times. Then what happened? Then never too later, Jaja wa Mugamba. It's like trafficking is before our eyes in this country. These kids you see selling boiled eggs on the streets. These kids have been trafficked to Kampala, and someone is using them. Look at the kids on the streets.
I mean, you speak about that, and when you look at the trafficking in persons report that was done in 2020, its estimates determined that traffickers are currently exploiting 7,000 to 12,000 children in through several ways. But one of the biggest here, Felix, it's actually sex trafficking in the country. You're looking between 7,000 to 12,000 now. There are high chances that it could even be way more than that. And again, according to the report, it really shows how human trafficking in Uganda primarily takes through or forced physical labor, what you are actually talking about, and also sexual trafficking.
Let me tell you, for some of you who are Napo who enjoy nightlife, if you've been to some of the places in Kampala, and most places are known, you go to places like, there's a report that came out about certain places around Natete, I think as you go to Sega, there's a place, but the people, the girls who are there, who are doing sex work, you can imagine even it's work now, who are doing prostitution, you may want to call it as well, because there are people who want that type of children or kids. These are kids who have been trafficked. And now, when someone is trafficked at the age of, let's say, 10, and they are induced in this act, by the age of 15, they are pros. It all starts somewhere. Someone doesn't just become a sex worker at the age of 25, abruptly, boom. It has started somewhere. Now, and this is the purpose for family formation. When you put a child out of their family formation, you start to deform them in whichever way. Because family formation has a role. And what is the role? In a local dialect, you would say, okoma, okomako. I don't know what that will be in English. But you're stopped from some particular mannerisms, some particular acts. You're limited in how you choose to do things. But every time the formation is out of place, you get to make choices of you, and you know what that can cause for some of us who have had those different times. And you can, family gives you a formation because they want you to come out a particular way. But what happens in the absence of family, where there is no formation? Now this is what we are talking about. Like every time trafficking is intensified, it means that you're taking these kids out of formation and putting them in a process that is totally unformed. So you cannot guarantee what comes out of them. The things you see on the streets of Uganda, in particular, the streets of Kampala, in every city, some of them are a result of trafficking. I met a child one time around Bombo Road, and I was concerned. This guy looked so hungry, the point that he was trying to pick a breath every time he was breathing. So I asked this kid, very dirty, somewhere around, curious, like, so good guy, what's up? Ugambo, Ugwani. And the kid was like, X, Ovawa. I think he said, Mubende. I'm like, Mubende, what are you doing? They're like, there's a man who brought us here, and then he left us, then we ran away. Like, you and who? Like, we were 3. Where are the rest? I don't know. Where do you stay? He told me somewhere in and I'm like, this, but the kid's guy was hardly 12 years. You know? Now, he was stuck on the streets, doesn't know how to go back home. Neither. This is what happens to kids. And away from talking about the institutions of government, society and government must work together in this. There are things that, you know, third world countries, I think it's a common problem. We don't value very much this whole thing of children. And this goes for both parents and people who are not parents. Either in communities or society, we don't value. You see a parent and how they deal with kids. Actually, like, what's the fuss? You meet a woman, mother of this child. The kid is 1 year. But the woman is beating the
one of the biggest blankets we use is that we are disciplining these children, Felix. But if we were actually to look into the mode of discipline that we are trying to improvise or we are trying to use as we are trying to impart the so-called discipline to the children, is just one of the wrong ways. But I'm also seeing a comment that is coming in from Mwanga Robert here in Seta, who says that parents have also they've opened the children up for trafficking because they don't give them enough time, but also looking at some of the circumstances around us like poverty, it has pushed parents to the verge of wanting to sell off their children into the whole traffic, especially looking at labor. This is what he's trying to talk about, saying that the parents have made it susceptible for their children to be trafficked. And could this be part of the explanation?
It would be a sad reality. I have heard of that. It's not the first time, and I allude to the fact that there's a possibility, the truth in what Mr. Mwanga is saying. But Philomena, you know, we have consistently had these discussions about parenting on this show. But there's one thing that comes out common in all the discussions we have, is that parenting is not a common good. And this is something we must appreciate. Parenting is not something common to everyone. And you don't have to be a parent because you have reproductive organs. And I think that's the mistake. That people think as long as I have a reproductive organ as a man, it has to have a child, or even a woman, because I carry what is Navana in English?
That is the womb.
Because you carry a womb, you want to. I think that's wrong. And I think that's what Robert says, that let's be intentional about creating families or even giving birth. At what point do you say you're going to sell a child? At what point do you make such a decision? You know, there's one song from one of the most celebrated artists in Uganda, now the late Paul Kafero, who said, if a nkoko, hen, can have 10 young chicks and raise them, a nkoko, how about a human being? And this was his argument about people who throw kids in toilets and all these things. You're talking about trafficking.
Yes.
Hin. So I think we have fallen short of our human duty as. But for me, I want to insist on the fact that, and I tell this to all of us, myself inclusive, there is no society that is guaranteed of continuity without a generation. You cannot talk about continuity as humankind without a generation to take from us. Let me tell you, and I tell this to all parents, children are children. Children are children, and they must be cared for, and you must assist them in their wrong ways. I hear people saying, now, how do you terminate the audio one at 1 year?
Because a child is a child.
How can you tell
bound to ask
that a child is problematic at 2 years? They're just being kids. You know, and this is the thing. Now, when you talk about some of these things, poverty, what? Let me tell you, there is no direct relationship between raising a child and poverty. That has been it has been disproved. Because, trust me, if it was about that, how many people in Uganda are rich? The numbers of people who are poor in Uganda supersede the number by multitudes. I think we just need to be, I think as a community, as a society, we have misplaced our anger and our pain. That's why I told you, you find in this country, you've seen the cases of many of these kids on streets. They'll tell you, Mama Ankuba, like all the time. You have misplaced our anger. And these are some of the causes of these things. We see the trafficking issues, the growth number in our kids being abducted and all this. How do you sell a child? At what price? What price do you attach to that?
Well, we are talking about child trafficking and, of course, seeing as over the weekend how police came out to rescue about 17 children somewhere in Wakiso district, aged between 1 to 6 years. And we'd love to hear from you this morning in regards to our poll question, what can be done to control and reduce the growing cases of child trafficking in Uganda? What can be done to control and reduce the growing cases of child trafficking in Uganda? Let us know what you think of that. And I do have feedback coming in from a couple of viewers. There is one coming in from Mildred, who is watching in from Chirika. And she says parents need to be arrested, especially those that have opened their children up for trafficking. In maybe if Mildred was trying to talk about irresponsible parents. And I do have here Kakaya Emmanuel, who is saying that first things first, we need to ensure that the children are separated from our communities, from our homes. The child traffickers don't come far from that. They are within these communities. They may not be directly the traffickers, but they could have a bigger hand and role that they are playing in the trafficking chain. So we need to look into that. But also, I have one here who is asking, has government met up with the standards to ensure that our children are safe? Even when they have been trafficked, is there a guaranteed system that we could be able to handle all these criminals who are trafficking our children and see how we can rescue them? Maybe also talking about the rescue systems, but also there is a question of if government does meet the minimum standards of the elimination of the trafficking. Does government have a lot down its pipeline to ensure that this is a story you don't have to be talking about anymore? Because one thing I know for sure that away from that, of course, there are few things government has come through to ensure that victims, or we reduce the number of victims. At least I'll tell you, identifying more victims and signing the national referral guidelines for management of victims of trafficking in Uganda is already there. And also important to note is that government increased prosecutions of suspected traffickers and even went on to increase the training to law enforcement personnel. You're looking at investigated allegations. If there are allegations here and there, have thorough investigations be done to ensure that we bring the right people to book. We ensure that justice served to the people who have lost their children. But also we know that there's been investigated allegations of complicity in trafficking crimes and created human trafficking officer positions within the Ugandan police force, even when you look at the criminal investigation department. But is that enough? Do you think that is enough? Because if we're seeing numbers continuing to grow all the way from 2021, 2022, you would say, is this enough? Why, if it was enough, why are we still seeing the numbers growing?
Clearly, but I think also because our focus has been put on trying to remedy what's already happening than prevent it. You get the point. So I think that government is doing is in the act to avert a situation that is already in occurrence. But how about you put a focus on preventing? what can we do to prevent the growing and the increased cases of child trafficking? One, parents. How about we take care of our kids? How about we be intentional about protecting our children? We cannot expose our kids to danger.
Because anyway, at the end of the day, it's still going to go back to you as a parent. Even if you wanted the government to come in. Government comes in when it has...
Philomena, if you had a problem at home, imagine you lost your child. The officers will come, they'll take statements and go back and do their work. What will you do when they have gone? Can you even sleep? So it comes back to you. The bigger duty and the burden is with you. Because it's with you, you have a bigger role. These are your kids. These kids are not called judiciary, Joe Godfrey or parliament. These are not government children. Government is an abstract thing. You can't say, these are your children. You must be serious. Honestly, if you have children, be serious about protecting your children. You find someone, then they tell you, neighbor. Since when? Since when is your neighbor your carer for your child? I see women in this town, and they have their kid on the back. You see them every time on these roads where we move. You find a mother carrying, her bananas on the head with a child on the back. Do you think they don't have neighbors? Most of the women in these arcades you see do carry two kids there. That's what parenting is. Parenting has no cause of comfort. Has no cause of comfort. Let's be serious about taking care of our children. We are children's protectors. Don't expose your kids to people you don't know. Protect your family jealously. The world has gone berserk, Philomena. People are evil. Ugandans are so evil. Let me put it that way. Evil. You've seen the case of child sacrifice, how they have increased in this country?
Yes.
Someone is willing to chop the head of your child for them to get rich.
Yes, there is no...
and yet also they have left their kids at home. But they want to kill yours. And these are people you know. These are some of them, your relatives.
That's what somebody in here said, that these people are from within the society.
These are your relatives.
Where we stay, where we, the people we associate with on a daily.
When you bring these house helps, because they're the ones who connect now the traffickers, they have agents. That the people in that fence, they're normally not around, they leave their kids alone. Okay? They normally send the kids to shops. You send someone of 3 years who can hardly even pronounce the word soap. Chabuni. Buying what? Why are you so lazy? And this is a problem of also women. You're so lazy. How do you send a 3-year-old to the shop? And if you've moved in these communities, you go to some of the suburbs that have high populations, the Machindie, you go to Natete, Kamocha, you see the kids crossing roads. 3 years. Why are you so lazy, you women?
Well, there is a comment coming in here saying children are no longer treated like children, but small adults.
That's so true.
For this vice to be capped by mass sensitization and tracing and investigation of those children who vend goods on streets.
Honestly and truly.
The moment you have a child at home, they know this is the child who can do all the responsibilities within the home or outside the home. Yes.
Actually, I like the way he has put it. They're
not seen as children anymore. They're now being considered as small adults. Is there a thing such as small adults even then?
Ugandans have put it there.
We have treated them as such. We have put it into practice.
And surprisingly, yet shocking, is how normal it is. Let me tell you, even if you walked out today here, just go down there. Just down here, Nile Avenue, as you go to that place where there used to be Electoral Commission. children, kids. It is half term. Kids are supposed to be in school. But you see, the MP's offices are just here, Kingdom, I think Kingdom.
Kampala Kingdom,
Kampala
yes.
Kingdom or whatever.
Kingdom Camp.
But the kids vent. They bypass them every day. The ministers bypass them with their every day. All of us, let me not even put myself out, every day. And it is now normal. Then in the evening, if you stay around the suburbs, they come out with maize and avocado on all major supermarkets. Who is looking at this as a problem? So the traffickers are comfortable because there's no effort to stop this. We have, how many times have we had this issue of the children from the Kejong region who are on the streets? And the facts are there that these kids are trafficked. There's someone who goes and picks them from various families, puts them on the buses to come and put them on the roads to beg. Who doesn't know that?
There is one
the speaker, the deputy speaker, the prime minister.
Felix, there is a viewer here who is saying that why do I hear a lot of blame being put onto the parents? I find it very hard to believe that they are doing this sort of thing willingly or at all. It's bad enough they lose their children.
There's a portion that goes to parents.
There is a portion of blame, yes.
Yes, who innocently lose their children, and we don't disregard that. It's a matter of fact. But we are looking, we're trying to ascertain what is the biggest contributor. And I think we have given you a number of examples. The case of the kids from the Karamoja region. Many of the kids on our streets, ask them how they got on these roads. Okay? You go and look at what one of our viewers who made an assertion to child labor. These young adults, they call them
the small
adults.
Actually, yes.
Why are they on the streets? And we seem to see this as a normal thing. Honestly, and that's the most painful thing. But what will happen here? And then they will make noise. Now I hear people in the district. What's this man's name was arrested? What go on? Yeah, they were demonstrating. You know that part in the Bible when the Apostle Paul said, "You foolish Galatians."
So we are acting now. We are being foolish Galatians. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. But the poll question is still running.
We can't fight for the innocent, but we want to fight for the guilty.
What can we do to control and stop the growing or the increasing child trafficking rates in Uganda? Let us know what you think about that. But for now, we'll look at the new vision in our daily papers. Iron sheets, 8 more ministers to be charged. Amos Lugolobi expected to be arraigned in court today, and thousands attend Kabaka birthday run. Daily Nation, healthcare costs choking families. Insurers urging patients to go for cheaper generic medicines. And tragic story of Mukumbu girls' health woes. I will not be cowed by Azimio's ICC threats, says police boss Kome. And Jose Camargo is here, claims Raila. The Citizen, why East Africa is poised for economic greatness. East Africa could soon become Africa's economic powerhouse if ongoing plans to expand the EAC are implemented successfully. Tanzanian company signs $4.2 billion US dollars Islamic financing deals in Zambia, and fisheries contribution undervalued, says report. Get yourself a copy of those papers this morning and catch up on those and many other stories. For now, Mollen will be in the house to give you more on weather and climate. Good morning.
It's the encounters with our majestic gorillas, the thrill of taking on the falls of the Nile River, the joy of discovering new traditions, and a lot more. Join us at the 2023 Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo from the 26th to the 29th of April at the Commonwealth Resort, Munyonyo. Rediscover our country's uniqueness and see what the tourism sector has in store for you. Visit www.poate.co.ug to secure your spot and get set to learn, network and explore. The Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo is brought to you by the Uganda Tourism Board in partnership with Competitiveness and Enterprise Development Projects. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
Glow as you are with the new Spark 10 series smartphone from Airtel in partnership with Tecno. Own the timelines with picture-perfect selfies using the 32-megapixel selfie camera, 256 GB storage, G88 gaming processor, and a strong battery to last the whole day. Haha! Toakana.
The Spark 10 smartphone comes with free 3 GB from Airtel and 100% bonus on weekly and monthly bundles every month for 3 months. So you can stay connected to a world of possibilities. Dial *100*5# to enjoy free data. The new Spark 10 is available in all selected Tecno shops countrywide. Airtel, the smartphone network in partnership with Tecno. Stop at nothing.
Salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. From the Union of Muslim Women and Organizations in Uganda, Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Karim.
Twagaliza omwezi ogwa Ramadani omulungi. Kye kiseera twekuba emitima tudde eri Allah.
Ebusoga bannange mwena mbagaliza Ramadan enungi.
Nimbendeza omwezi mulungi ogwa Ramadan.
Tumefika katika mwezi wa Ramadhani na watakiza kila la kheri katika mwezi huu Ramadhani al-Karim.
Akonga aisha na shalami kinisiri amunu kierelo teso kama na rakeda suroti ngora 10 bukedi ya palisa akoro amunu kinorikesi kiere aisibana jokan.
شهر رمضان مباركا أهلا بكم ومرحبا بكم يا جماعة الخير المسلمين أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا بكم شهر رمضان مبارك.
As the Union of Muslim Women, we have prepared so many programs with the sheikhs that really speak to our hearts and our minds. We request you to be on UBC during the day 3 to 4, but also during Daku time 5 to 6 a.m. in the morning. Ramadan Kareem, Ramadan Mubarak. Salamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, it is quite a cloudy and chilly morning across the nation's capital today in Kampala, but also for a few areas around Lake Victoria that did start off with a few rains. And right now we're looking at a clearing trend. But first, we also want to take you through what is going on across the roads. In terms of traffic, we'll be tapping in from the satellites that are indicating some of the roads that are quite clear for you this morning, and those that have some traffic that you might need to be aware of, especially as you're headed into the central part of the city. Now we're looking at most of the roads joining into the Kampala-Jinja Highway. We're looking at areas of Nakawa, Newport Bell Road. You do have quite clear traffic right there coming in from Newport Bell Road. But also for the areas of Nakawa, you do have a few traffic building up. Naguru as well, you do have traffic that is building up towards the main highway, and that is one you can look out for. But also again, as you head into town, you do have very clear traffic indicated by the green lines right there. Also looking at the upper roads joining in from the Lugogo bypass, you're also joining into the Lugogo bypass, you do have clear traffic right there. Areas of Chadondo as well onto the Kampala-Jinja Highway, you have clear traffic right there, and that goes all the way as you head towards a town. You also have another road joining in, that is the First Street right there. It looks like it also has clear traffic. Now that's where you start to get intense traffic right there. That is between industrial area as you headed towards the roundabout that is across the Kampala-Jinja Highway. You do have intense traffic that is building up. That is one you might need to look out for. But also the downer roads, that is the old Port Bay Road, again coming in from areas of Bugolobi, you do have quite clear traffic. It is less intense than the upper one. So if you were to make a decision right from the other side, if you were to use old Port Bay Road, it looks quite clear. Now on the roundabout, you also have quite intense traffic right there, and that also includes the roads joining in, that is from Wampeo Avenue. You also have traffic that is building up right there. Also between that is the roundabout towards the traffic lights, you also have quite intense traffic right there. And then again, it does actually clear for those joining into town as indicated by the green lines right there. But also the Downer Road, that is Access Road. If you're coming in from the upper side of Nsambia, that is industrial area as well, you could be looking at quite intense traffic right there that you might need to be aware of. Away from that, we'll also be looking at our satellites, tapping in from what we have over the country this morning. We did start off with a few rains that is across the islands of Lake Victoria, and that system did continue into the western side and central Lake Victoria Basin, where we had a few showers earlier in the night, also getting into the early hours of today morning. But then that has started to clear up. It looks like we do have a bigger system that is extending towards the western area, that is areas of Masaka. A similar system also starting to develop towards southwestern Uganda, bringing rains across areas of that is Nyonyintono. Even right now as we speak, that system is headed for areas of Mbarara. We already have clouds over the area, so do look out for a few showers that might be headed your way for this morning. Otherwise, it's mostly cloudy for much of the country. We're also looking at a possibility of light rains developing for central part of northern Uganda, that is across Padel, Ketugum, as well as Gulu. We're starting off quite cold as well for most of the areas, but also if you look at the cloudy weather right there across much of the country, that means it will keep a little bit of temperatures down for this morning, but also that will be paving way for mostly sunny weather likely in the afternoon. Also for the Karamoja region, we're looking at quite a cloudy one for you, but we're also starting off with a sunny morning across much of eastern Uganda, indicated by the darker colors right there on the map. That is areas of Amudat. We're also looking at Mbale, Palisa, Soroti, Amuria, starting off with mostly intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. You also have a mix of clouds and sunshine for areas of Busia. We're looking at Jinja as well, starting off with quite a mix of clouds and sunshine, but we do expect that we might see a development of wet weather activities later in the afternoon. Now, mostly for the southern part of the country, we might also be having a development of wet weather activities for this morning, but also later in the afternoon. And that also takes in the western sector, where we are also having influence of, that is the Congo air mass moving in towards the country, and that is bringing us mostly rainy weather for the western part of the country. Otherwise, we're still looking at mostly dry weather, again forecast for much of northeastern Uganda as well as parts of eastern Uganda, but also we continue with a rainy season that is continuous. That is up to May, end of May, when we start to see rains going down. But for now, we know that a lot of regions are still performing in terms of wet weather activities. And of course, for the activities that do depend on weather, you can choose to take advantage of that. Now, also moving beyond borders, we're looking at how far it is, especially with climate action. Now, we did see that is the G7 countries meeting up in Japan to talk about the energy sector, how far we've gone in terms of transition from use of fossil fuels onto renewable energy. Now, this was a highly anticipated meeting, especially in the fact that most of these nations have not put a clear pathway or roadmap onto how they are going to be making that transition quite swift. But we also did see that one of the issues that has been coming across, especially with all these meetings, is the fact that they have not agreed onto the deadline on when to phase out some of the use of fossil fuels. And of course, we do know that this takes in countries like Germany, that is, we're looking at Canada, the UK, the US, and of course now also taking in the European Union. Now, according to some of these developed nations, they are also talking about agreeing to speed up the process of climate change mitigation and, of course, looking at investment and technology advancements that could be put across to look at how far they can help, especially moving into use of, more investment into wind energy as well as solar energy. But again, like I said, the deadline has not been met before. These are the same countries that suggested we can go up to 2030 and then completely phase out the use of coal especially. But now from this meeting, they are also recognizing the current global energy crisis and economic disruptions, whereby now they are reaffirming the commitment of accelerating the clean energy transition to net zero by 2050 at least. Now, that sets us back again 20 years from what was agreed upon before. So meaning that most of these countries are also not taking serious the idea that a lot of countries are counting on them, especially to make decisions when it comes to how far we can now accelerate, that is climate action for most of these countries that continue again to be at the forefront of themselves creating the crisis, because we know that they are the ones involved in most of these development projects that do continue to put emissions into the atmosphere, and that is the huge worry right there. But also we know that countries like France, Italy, that are also within the G7 have also given out their account for a quarter they do account for a quarter of the carbon emissions and 40% of the world's economic activities. So that kind of puts them at quite a very big gap with the developing countries, because we know that these are the same countries as well that pledged that they will be giving a lot of monies or finances for developing countries to cope with the changing climate, and most of these commitments have not been made, which is why we're saying that this actually does set back a lot of a lot of countries are counting on them. But also they did talk about eliminating of the new plastic pollution by 2040, and the talks saw also the G7 environmental and climate ministers that pledged to eliminate the new plastic pollution in the countries by 2040. Well, Germany, France, Canada, Britain and the EU have now agreed to make a commitment, but this is actually, this was the first time that the remaining G7 members, that is including Japan and the US, Italy, had done so. So meaning that at least there is also positivity coming in from, especially looking at how they are taking in the commitments towards ending of plastic use. And of course we know that that can be adapted into the global plan, whereby each nation can then be tasked to put that as one of the nationally determined contributions, especially when it comes to climate action for each nation. Now also there are more talks that are being held, especially with the world's biggest polluter. We know that that is China, and what they are talking about is how they can now join hands with Brazil, that has also been talking about how they can help the entire world into adapting to the crisis. And of course right there in the picture we see Brazil's President Luiz Inácio da Silva and Chinese President Xi Jinping, whereby they did attend a meeting that was on 14th, talking about how they can put their efforts together into speeding up agreement on climate change mitigation investments and also technology advancement. Now that was in a joint statement that they did issue out on Friday. Much of what they are looking at is supporting developing countries. And China has always been called out for having the biggest contribution to climate change, but then again they are slow in action and support. Now we know that even the president of Brazil, even when he was getting into power, he did make a pledge that he will be at the forefront of the climate change journey in terms of action, and at least there is hope that now is bringing in China to see that they join efforts, especially when it comes to supporting developing nations. And that is one thing that we can count on and know, that some of these finances that will be coming across can be used to, especially for adoption in terms of climate change, with most of the vulnerable countries as well as the island nations that have been worst hit by the effects of climate change. But that does it for now. We'll be going into Good Morning Uganda coming up right after this. Later than that, we'll also be looking into sports news, and then later we'll also take you through Good Morning Uganda Extra. My name is Mollen, Kenyena, wishing you a wonderful week.
Glow as you are with the new Spark 10 series smartphone from Airtel in partnership with Techno. Own the timelines with picture-perfect selfies using the 32-megapixel selfie camera, 256 GB storage, G88 gaming processor, and a strong battery to last the whole day. Towakana.
The Spark 10 smartphone comes with free 3 GB from Airtel and 100% bonus on weekly and monthly bundles every month for 3 months, so you can stay connected to a world of possibilities. Dial *100*5# to enjoy free data. The new Spark 10 is available in all selected Techno shops countrywide. Airtel, the smartphone network in partnership with Techno. Stop at nothing.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Pick of the day on UBC. was brought to you by
Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial star 165 star 5 star 3 hash to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
It's the encounters with our majestic gorillas, the thrill of taking on the falls of the Nile River, the joy of discovering new traditions, and a lot more. Join us at the 2023 Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo from the 26th to the 29th of April at the Commonwealth Resort, Munyonyo. Rediscover our country's uniqueness and see what the tourism sector has in store for you. Visit www.poate.co.ug to secure your spot and get set to learn, network, and explore. The Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo is brought to you by the Uganda Tourism Board in partnership with Competitiveness and Enterprise Development Projects. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Welcome to the agenda. 3 minutes past 8 a.m. It is the 17th of April, 2023. A Monday, meaning it's a fresh new week. Allow me to welcome you back from the weekend. A lot went on. If you had a lot to do, well, I am very happy to let you know that now the week is here, so it's about time we get into serious business. And I am very excited to be here with our very special guest this morning to talk about something that is of imperative value in our societies. When we talk about human rights to food, what do you understand by that? Does that apply to you as a Ugandan, as a citizen, and as a human being? How do you make of a discussion like that? Well, we'll be getting into all of that this morning, especially looking at the positioning of the human right to adequate food as a tool for Uganda, for food systems transformation agenda of Uganda. I will repeat that for clarification. Positioning the human right to adequate food as a tool for food systems transformation agenda of Uganda. Well, this morning I am very again lucky to be saying that I have a very special guest in the studio with me who will be giving us more details and information on this. And I am very happy because I know we are going to have a very interesting and informative discussion that I would love for you to be part of. So get into our social media pages, Twitter, #UBCGMU, WhatsApp 0709-602-592. And this morning I have Mr. Kabanda David, an advocate and executive director for Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights, Uganda. Thank you so much, David, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Philomena.
And the fact that we are going to talk about food makes me happy. Yeah. It excites me. So I am sure that our viewers will also be very interested in knowing what you will be talking to us this morning. And like we did have just a prior conversation earlier on, talking about the right to food here in Uganda. An ordinary Ugandan may not be able to understand what we mean, because by that, obviously, we'll think about food, maybe breakfast, lunch, supper, and that's just about it. But I'm sure there is quite a whole lot more behind that. So maybe if you could start by giving us the current overview of the right to food in Uganda and what exactly it is you mean by right to food in Uganda.
Thank you so much, Philomena, for having me. It is a wonderful morning. I don't know, it already feels so well. Yes. When I was driving to come here, you see everyone is running to do something. The roads are busy and everything. But why this is very important is with the moment someone wakes up, the first thing they think about is food, whether you like it or not. Where's my breakfast? Or they pick water because doctors have advised that it is very important to take water on an empty stomach. And then after that, they'll have to eat breakfast. Sometimes people do in between breakfast and lunch. And then lunch, then after. So our lives rotate around eating. Whether you like it or not, we want food and we must eat. But before you put anything into your body, you need to understand that you either cause it sickness or you give it life. And how? There are two dimensions that I want us to look at quickly. We have 11%, before COVID-19, 11% Ugandans were in acute hunger. People don't have food. And then thereafter, many disruptions came in. And according to FAO, we have over 40% of Ugandans struggling. Many people are silently dying. Maybe the word may not be dying, silently suffering with hunger. Many people sleeping on empty stomachs. Many children cannot afford food. You have seen on social media where we have pictures of children who are being 3 beans in a cup of water.
Yes.
And then that is like, it is soup. And others are basically going hungry the whole day in school. So the problem is deep. And last year you saw our sisters and brothers in Karamoja dying because of hunger. So we have this, as people don't have food. And even those people who have, they are just a day or minutes away into acute hunger because they may have got a meal now and they are not sure whether they'll get a meal tomorrow. But aside, we also have a bigger challenge of even those who access or have food, the food is unsafe. Many people in Uganda are eating death because if it is not safe, it is not food. And this is the slogan, this is a fact. The fact is many people are eating, but what they are eating is not food, they are eating poison. And to explain this a little bit is, yes, let me show you. When we are talking about a food systems transformation, someone may ask, why a transformation? What, do we have a problem with our food? Yes, yes. You have gone to the market and you have found tomatoes with whitish substance. And unfortunately, sadly, many people run to buy such products which have chemicals on them. They have been misled to think that when you see that, then maybe they'll have a longer shelf life. I should go for those tomatoes. So the practice in the garden is already annoyingly sick because we have many farmers who do not even understand the implication of using chemicals. They have not been trained in using of these chemicals, but they continuously do spray. And no wonder we have these cancers. If you went to the Uganda Cancer Institute today, you'll be shocked. The many cancers people cannot explain. Many people are overly spending money. The catastrophic spending in our homes is because of what we are eating. And from the garden, on transit, when the food products are being transported to the market, they add chemicals. And then in the market, they also add chemicals. So someone has worked so hard to get money. You go to the market, the cabbage you are taking home is contaminated. The tomatoes you are taking home are contaminated. The eggplants, everything is now. You see, even Irish potatoes, people spray. People spray now everything. And beyond the crops or the food crops that we are talking about, it is the same story with the poultry. If I just had time to elaborate on how the poultry system in Uganda is not only immoral but illegal, you'll be shocked. I want to tell you, I cannot visit your home and I eat eggs. No, no, I can't. There is no restaurant or hotel in Uganda where I eat eggs. But many people, the moment you go to a hotel, to a restaurant, the first thing, I need an egg, and let me demonstrate to you why. If you see, in Uganda, we have small-scale farmers who are supplying the market with these eggs. And also, by the way, large-scale farmers who may transport to Congo, some transport to Sudan, and also to Kenya. But for you to sustain a poultry business in Uganda, you need to have a lot of chemicals that you use. Because these birds have been constrained in one room, in one house, from day one when you get the chicks. So there is no exercise, you don't feed them on any green or leafy things, it is on a maize bran and then the concentrates. Let me ask you, do you know do you know the long life implications of those concentrates that people are using? Because people are now running away from using silverfish, and which would be a good thing, but people are using concentrates. The chicken, the poultry is thriving on antibiotics. This is why now we have a very high resistance of antibiotics, even in human medicine. Many people are now suffering with children. People are having infections, weird infections they cannot even understand. Be it adults, be it children. Where are these infections coming from? We are eating them from eggs, from those, people inject, chicken, the broilers that people crave to eat, with all sorts of, chemicals, and then they bring them on the market and you just eat. So when I learned that, and I learned it from experience, I was a poultry farmer myself. I know at some point it comes to a time when you must, you see, the manufacturers of these medicines that we use in the poultry sector, they will tell you, when you use a chemical X, please don't eat either the bird or the eggs for this amount, maybe 7 days, maybe 14 days. But you clearly, who is that poultry farmer in Uganda who will throw away the eggs after injecting the birds with such chemicals? They bring them to the market and people eat them. And it is the same even with the fish, the people who do ponds and everything. And another big problem is aflatoxins. Yesterday, 2-3 days ago, Uganda National Bureau of Standards again warned the Ugandans about the danger of posho. But tell me which household in Uganda that does not have posho. People are eating posho and they don't care. But they have warned us that posho is contaminated with metal because many of these millers are not using food-grade materials in milling and ground nuts. You see, we are eating metal.
Yes.
Beyond the aflatoxins that happen from the garden, from post-harvest handling, from storage, from everything. But there is also the metal problem. But you see, you ask yourself, having lamented, having brought out all these issues, having showed to you, a fellow Ugandan, that your children are in schools, the only food they eat in these schools is posho. But I have also demonstrated to you that you may even find that 60% of the posho that your children are eating, if it is not contaminated with metal, it is contaminated with aflatoxins and other substances. But what do? People are continuously eating and some people don't care. Beyond that, many other people, especially the middle class, are eating refined flour. Food that is high in sugar, food that is high in salt, food that is high in fat. The moment I talk about fat, we can spend a whole day here talking about fat.
Yes.
Beyond you talking about the oil, you know, we have been lied to or misled to think that the oil from seeds is the perfect one, which is not. Other people are reusing oil. You know how dangerous reused oil is. Many people no longer cook in their households. They go to the streets and then they get food from the street because it is cheaper. But do you care to know the practice of these street food vendors? How they recycle oil from, someone may have used the oil for a year, and then they recycle it, people are just eating, give me fried fish, give me chicken, give me, chips. But who regulates beyond, for example, local governments getting licenses from the care that the food the people are going to eat from this street food vendor is healthy, is fit for human consumption? Maybe we don't care about that. We just continue, people are eating. And beyond the street food, have you taken trouble to even care whether the restaurant where you'll be eating food today has the necessary, requirements to prepare human food? I have ever gone to a restaurant, a celebrated restaurant, yes, and I told them that, no, for me, before I eat your food, I must see where it is being cooked. At first, they said, no. I said, no. If I'm going to eat your food, the good thing I had ordered, and they had brought it. I was like, I'm not going to pay for this food till when I see where it is being cooked.
Yes.
Now, they looked at the food, maybe they said, okay, you come. I went to where the food is being prepared from. I just gave them the money and I left. Do you care to even find out whether the practice in the kitchen or where the food is being, rotten stuff?
Because people don't exactly take time to go and see what is there, so they take advantage.
But maybe someone can say, but Kabanda is exaggerating. Do I need to go there all the time? You may not. This is why we are now coming in to say, okay, there is a problem. There is a snake in our house. The snake needs to get out. Because whether you like it or not. Today, as I was driving to come, you could see some people walking with some oily stuff, envelopes. You understand? The catch envelopes. But you see oil all over it. On the street. Someone maybe has bought a chapati. They have put it in that stuff. Others wrap it in used in newspapers. And you wonder, you ask yourself, who told Ugandans that every substance they see can wrap food? You understand? Beyond maybe the paper where the food is being wrapped, we have the problem of plastics. Right now, 90% of the plastics on the Ugandan market do not qualify to be used by humans. The moment you use them, you have registered yourself into a cancer society, whether you like it or not. But who takes care? Who must come in to help Ugandans not to die so early? Right now, we are talking about 70% of Ugandans who are in the danger of dying prematurely. One time, the president asked a question. You see, I have followed the president, and I think if I may like him, I like him because of his guidance when it comes to food. He has guided us on many dimensions when it comes to food. But one time, I think he was speaking about Olanya when the late speaker died. And he wondered, but why are Ugandans dying so early these days? And some people are like, you see, God has called them, God has called them. And he said, why is God calling us, all these people alone? You understand?
Why isn't he calling
Why? Other countries, people live years and years. But the thing is food. Food is killing people. People have not yet understood, or other people, we are speaking to them, but they don't want to listen. We have told people that it is important you eat fruits and vegetables. People don't want to eat. I have engaged restaurants, why don't you prepare fruits, vegetables, and what? I said, but people, even if we prepare and give them to people, people don't eat them. So you go to the market, spend a lot of money on buying these vegetables, you prepare, serve them with food, people pick kaunga, and they leave all your vegetables on the plate. So, but if you do not, you know, other people are also saying, okay, Kamanda is talking about fruits and vegetables, but the fruits and vegetables are also contaminated with chemicals. So we have all these problems, and our food system is not only sick,
yes,
it is broken, and it is deadly.
Well, those are not words that we would really desire to hear, but we have to hear them because if it's the reality, then indeed it is the reality. We are talking about the human right to adequate food as a tool for food systems transformation agenda. But in all of this, David, of course, we know that the law plays quite a huge role in it. And we would love to know, especially when you look at this whole food system, would you actually cite out some of the opportunities where the legal framework would come in, and what exactly would they do in this right to adequate food?
Okay, thank you so much. When we talk about a food system, we are talking about from the farm to the fork, or from the farm to your plate when you eat the food. So whatever happens in there is the system that we are talking about. There are many opportunities where we think the law can be a very wonderful tool. This is why we are talking about the right to adequate food. The right to adequate food has clear elements. We are talking about food availability, food accessibility, and food adequacy. In adequacy, we talk about food health, food environments. It has all the dimensions of food security and food safety. Now, where it starts from, we have local governments. Local governments are complete governments with power to regulate and, you know, do implement some laws. Could local governments come in and implement the environmental laws that we have in place, the food laws we have in place? For example, when you look at the Agriculture Chemicals Control Act, not everyone is supposed to be an applicator. An applicator is someone who sprays. Do we have farmers trained on how to use the chemicals? Do we have these shops, because we have agro shops in almost every township now in Uganda? Who regulates them to make sure that the mancozeb that people take, or who regulates, maybe from a local government, there is a lot of work to do because enforcement starts at that level. So we think that if we are talking about a human right to adequate food, it starts from the garden. It starts from the people to know that whatever you are producing is either a life-giving commodity or a life-threatening commodity, and you must be responsible. You will be culpable if we find that you are misusing chemicals in your garden. That is the first level. The second level is transportation. People transport food in all ways. Have you seen people transporting nakati on top of the truck and they are sitting in the vegetables themselves? Have you seen how the cows we eat, the beef we eat, how it is transported from the farms to the abattoir, with twisted tails, with, you know, the kind of torture? By the time the animal is slaughtered, it is no longer fit for human consumption. So the transport system is, do we have food grade transportation system that helps us get, you know, food? And we need to now have the law regulate the transporters of our food. Then when it comes to the market, who regulates this market such that the food vendor does not add other chemicals. We need to see the local government act being implemented. We need to see a new law. We have asked the government to give us a new framework law on food. The law we have is an archaic old law that only looked at chemical, because we have someone from government once told me, but we have the Food and Drugs Act. Then you ask him, why did the Drugs Authority get out of the law? The law is very old, 1956, before even independence. You know, many things have changed, dimensions have changed. We want to ask government. I know that we have the Ministry of Agriculture. Dear Minister Frank Tumwebaze, let us have a law on food. Let it just be a framework law. Don't fear that you see the law will come up with economic, issues. We are not asking you to feed Ugandans. You also know that you failed to feed us even during COVID-19. This is when we saw that government can't feed us. People should only be enabled to feed themselves, but give us a framework law such that we can use that law, even if government has not yet got the money to come in. If we have the tool, if we know that the law states like this, then we can hold those people accountable. Then the processors of food, the millers, oh God, we do not have a clear law within which to hold them accountable. They do everything the way they want. Nobody holds them accountable. They mislabel, they change expiry dates, they use metal, building materials into the food milling system instead of using food grade material. If someone is an investor and they cannot have food grade materials, they shouldn't be given licenses to mill food, because whether you like it or not, it ends onto your plate. And you policymakers and our leaders in ministries and also government departments, don't think that this doesn't concern you. In fact, it should be you to worry so much. One time I told members of parliament that the food you eat in your canteen, you don't know where it comes from. And maybe that is also dangerous. You just eat. When you find kaunga in your canteen because you crave for it, you just eat, but you don't know that it came from that milling house or a factory that did not use food grade. You are eating metal, even in your food. You ministers, in your ministry, if you are eating from, even if you are eating from your home, you don't know how your home administrator procured the food. This is what we are talking about. Give us a framework law. Doesn't it scare you? You as ministers and our other leaders, doesn't it scare you that it is only Uganda, maybe in the entire world, that does not have a food authority? Why should we have, okay, I understand that it is government said that they are not now coming up with new authorities because of maybe expenditure, maybe what. But you can phase out many authorities, but we need an authority on food. Some people are talking about the Uganda National Bureau of Standards. That is a standards agency. It is not a food agency. We need an agency that will prevail over these sugar-sweetened beverages companies, over the sugar. Doesn't it scare you, dear Ugandans, that the level of sugar in many sodas in Uganda is way too high compared to the level of sugar in other countries? Why should we have a lot of sugar in our sodas in Uganda and it is not the same in other countries? The people who do confectionery, the cookies and everything, the amount of sugar and the type of sugar, because people do not make a difference. If you got sugar today from that circuit, from that shop, in your own township, go put it in water and let it to settle. Don't put it in your tea. Put it in plain water. Leave it there to settle, and you see the kind of metal that you'll see in the cup. So what we want to ask government to do, you ask me about opportunities that the law gives us in the transformation of the food system, because people are doing all these practices with a lot of impunity. Nobody is accountable. We want people to be accountable. The moment you produce food, you are touching the central nerve of our lives. You are putting, you are putting families, you are putting our economy on a firing squad, if I may use that word, because if we die so early and we leave families that are not attended to, if we die so early, we are impacting on the economy. People will not be getting a lot of money, will not be working. We are retrogressing instead. And another level of food where we need regulation, where we need law, is hotels. You see, you go to a buffet in a hotel and you can't pick anything, because in almost all food they have used trans fats. Trans fats are a danger. Trans fats are killing people. But, in many, many chefs have interacted with, they use that, and in many schools where they teach them about catering and how to use that, this is what they use. So what we want to see is, going forward, we want to see local governments get involved into issues of food, from where food is being grown, but also at local government level, making sure that the agriculture or the agriculture shops are not selling expired, chemicals and all chemicals. Then at national level, dear Ministry of Agriculture and the Chemicals Control Board, many chemicals have been banned in other countries. Where they come from, they have banned them. For example, the mancozeb that is being used in the tomato and vegetable sector has been banned everywhere, including EU. They cannot allow you to export now any product that has been grown using mancozeb. Why should we still have it on our list? Why should we have it still, being allowed to be imported into Uganda? Glyphosate, the weed killers, same, carcinogenic in nature, they cause cancer. Dear Chemical Control Board in the Ministry of Agriculture, prevail over this. Please stop allowing importation into this country all these chemicals that are a danger, not only to people who use them spraying, but also the food system. But on the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Agriculture, please work together. Let us have a legal framework. We do not ask you to give us a piecemeal legislation on everything. No, let us just have a framework, law that helps us to navigate through the chains of the food system. But also local governments, you can still have bylaws at your local government level. Not to say that we do not have anything that we can use from civil society, but also government. Yes, we can continue using the Food and Drugs Act, at least with its limitations, but we also now have the Public Health Act, very old. When we got the amendment only looked at the vaccinations and the vaccines. We think that we can still use it to prevail over situations of public health that cause these diseases, because also non-communicable diseases are on an increase. They are saying that the rate is 33% increase in non-communicable diseases due to food. People are dying because of food.
Well, as we are coming close, of course, to the end of this, I do understand that we have the second national conference on the human rights to adequate food in Uganda. Now, what are the main takeaways for the government ahead of this conference?
Okay. We want to encourage all Ugandans to come and attend the conference. It is going to be in Makerere, below the library, that auditorium, Yusuf Rule Auditorium. Please come and attend. Come, because this is a center. It's going to be an epicenter of all practitioners who adhere to the right to adequate food. If you have any questions, if you are looking for all opportunities in this sector, all the brains, all the people, all the partners will be in that conference. come and attend. Now, the takeaways, because we know that government is on board, we have been organizing the conference with MAIF, Ministry of Agriculture has been part, FAO is part, and other development partners. Please come as we discuss. We need to come up with serious commitments this time on the right to food. Where do we go? Where we know that we are stuck, because it is a fact. You cannot run away from a fact. The fact is a fact. The problem is our food system is sick, is deadly. Well, how do we get out of this? Come and hear the opportunities that we have over time discussed and distilled, and we know that we'll be taking the sector forward. Because the opportunities, even when you look at the National Development Plan 3, the first program is agro-industrialization. So how do we, practice agriculture sustainably, nourishing people? We are not only talking about food as a commodity that people must put food in their stomachs. No, we are talking about nourishing a society. We are talking about people who must make sure that the food does not kill people but gives them the life. We will be talking about issues of accessibility of food, availability of food, and the adequacy of food in the conference.
Well, thank you so much for making time for us, Mr. Kabanda David. Honestly, I'm very interested to know exactly what we are doing. But from what you have talked about here, there is a lot that we are yet to do as a country, as the government, even as a citizen. So hopefully this will be eye-opening to the rest of us. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. Allow me to wish you a wonderful day. We still have a lot coming up. We have sports coming through, sports updates, highlights, what happened over the weekend in the world of sports. And later after that, we will be having the GMU Extra queued up as well for the extra content and information that you are looking for. My name is Philomena Mastiko. Have a wonderful and very productive Monday and week ahead.